All right, in the last video, we implemented set. Now let's work on get. So get needs to accept a key like pink and then go and look in our hash table. Well, it needs to hash that key, right? And we need to get an index. Then we look to see if there's something in the hash table at that index. And if not, then we return undefined or false or something. Otherwise, we need to return the value itself, which depending on how many things are in there, because with the way we're doing this with separate chaining, there could be 5 or 10 values or more, doesn't really matter, inside of this one index. So we need to find the correct key and value inside of that index in a nested list. So retrieve the key value pair and then return it and return undefined if you can't find it. Okay, so I've updated my example stuff, that's not a good way of putting it. I've updated our demo hash table here with some real colors and color codes. These are all HTML or CSS built-in named colors. Medium violet red, and this is the hexadecimal color code. Okay, I've also updated the size up here to be 17, although honestly I probably should have just specified it here and then put this back at, what was it at? 53, was it? Doesn't matter that much. Okay, so we have get written here, the skeleton takes a key in. The first thing we need to do is hash that key. So I'm just gonna copy this here. Get an index. Let index equals this dot underscore hash of our key. So whatever's passed in. Okay, then we need to first check, is there something at that index? So let's just do a if this dot key map of that index like that. So if there's nothing there at that index, then we know for sure we can return undefined, right? So if we do find an index, or if we find something at the index, like let's say that we get index of 8. Well, there is something there, but what do we need to do? Well, we can't just return the first thing. We can't return the entire context of that index. If we did that, let's just do return this dot key map of index. First of all, let's run our code again. Let's do ht.get. What color do I have in there? Yellow. What does it give me? Well, it gives me the entire element in our hash table at that index, which happens to contain 2 items. What we want is to return this sub array, the child. So we need to loop over potentially any values in there and then find what we're looking for and return that entire sub array. So rather than that, we're going to do, let's do a for loop. Start at 0, just loop over an array. So while I is less than this dot key map index dot length I plus plus. So this occurs once we've found the correct spot. Like if I look at the hash table, suppose we hash the key yellow, it comes back as the index 8. So we found the data at 8. So now we need to loop over this, which is an array of 2 items. But we could have 10 things here, and we might be looking for the last thing, or the middle thing, or the first thing. But we're going to start a variable at 0, just a standard loop, while it's less than the length of the item at this index, which in our case is a subarray of 2 items. We are going to add one to I, and then we're just going to check if this dot key map, and what we're actually looking for is to see if the key that was passed in equals the first item in this array and the first item in this array until we find what we're looking for. So if this dot key map index of I, that's going to give us this subarray here, or this subarray here. Then we want the 0 item where we're storing the key, because we're storing our key first and then the value. If that equals the key that we're looking for, then we're going to, I'm going to do it on a separate line because it's kind of a long statement, but return this dot key map, and we want to return index of I, the entire subarray. So let's test it out. I'm going to run this. We got our hash table, and let's do a dot get first of something that is in there, like yellow. Okay, so we get the correct array. Yellow is our key, and our value is that color code. If we try and do something that's not in there, we get undefined. Let's just double check. Let's try doing plum. What else was stored alongside? Let's see. in index 8, we had maroon. So let's just check if it works when we try and get maroon, because that's really the harder case. Yep, looks like it's working. If I try and get plum, I already did plum, didn't I? How about salmon? All right, well, it looks good to me, except for the fact that when we do a get, like if I do olive, we get the entire array. We just want the value. So if we come back to get right here, don't return the entire array, return the value, which is the second item, index of 1, 0, 1. All right, try it again. Let's do ht.getOlive. All right, it's working. Right, we get the corresponding value, not the entire thing. And if we try and add something new, let's set are we done to be yes. If we do ht.get are we done, we get yes. All right, so that's working, and that is the basics of get. So we hash the key that's provided to get an index. Then we check if the key map even contains anything at that index. If not, we just return undefined, right? If I try and do this, we get undefined. Otherwise, we're going to check over every single item that is contained at that index. There might be 1, there might be 50. We loop over and we check for each one. Are you the thing we're looking for? Is your key, index of 0, equal to my key that I'm looking for? If it is, return the value. So this key map index I of 1. Not the most intuitive looking code, not that beautiful, but the shortest way of doing it, or at least one of the shorter ways. All right, so that's get.